So as part of our science of group and organisational development offerings, we offer climate surveys. Very interesting to see where climate surveys come from. Some are designed by people such as market research professionals. Some are based on psychological research. We favour the ones that are based on psychological research in general because usually what's happened is that there's been a link between the survey offerings, the link between the survey results and what I like to call real-world outcomes. Real-world outcomes such as profitability, such as success in a commercial sense, such as the satisfaction of clients and so forth. Now, I think one of the sort of maxims that we use when we speak to clients about climate surveying is the phrase diagnosis is damaging. And it might seem a strange thing to say about a product which is of its very nature diagnostic, but it's a little bit like if you went to the doctor and the doctor says, you have cancer, goodbye. I don't think you'd find that a very satisfactory interaction. And climate surveys are like that. Many organisations undertake climate surveys, but the people in those organisations typically don't know what's going to happen with those climate survey results, and they don't know exactly how those results are going to be used. And even if people do something about those climate survey results, quite often employees are sitting there thinking nothing happened. So when we undertake climate surveys for clients, what we seek to do is we seek to undertake them as an organisational development exercise right from the start. And so there's a couple of things that we do to make sure this happens. One is that we want to engage deeply with the executive group of that organisation to make sure that they're on board with this organisational improvement perspective, not just organisational diagnosis perspective. And when the executive of the organisation understands the benefit of this, they typically get quite excited about the idea. But then what's really important is that we undertake pre-survey engagement with members of the organisation, staff across all different levels of the organisation, and we tell them exactly what's going to happen and exactly how the success of this exercise will be identified. In other words, we tell them what will happen with the results after they've completed. Now, because of this, over the last 2 years, we've never had a response rate for any climate survey of less than 80%. And I think that's crucial. We have many clients who've been used to response rates of 40, 50, 60%. A response rate of 80 or 90% means that the information that's gathered is irrefutable. Now, once you've talked about that technique of climate surveying, then of course what you need is a reliable and valid instrument. And the instrument that we use most often is the Denison Climate Survey instrument, largely because the work of Daniel Denison goes back many, many years. But one of the things that's really interesting and valuable about working with Daniel's organisation is that they're constantly undertaking linkage research between climate survey results and outcomes in the real world. Outcomes such as satisfaction, outcomes such as academic results in universities, health outcomes in hospitals and so forth. So let me show you the Denison model of engagement. And really, it's an interesting tool because what's happened is that Daniel has, in his very early days of his research, he was seeking to differentiate between successful and unsuccessful organisations based on what employees would say about those organisations. And so he did what psychologists typically do. He's used thousands of questions, and then he's used them on many, many organisations, and then he used mathematics to differentiate the questions that worked and the questions that didn't work. And what he came up with was a base set of 60 questions which have been shown to be extremely accurate predictors of success and failures in organisations. And those 60 questions, the number 60 is absolutely crucial because I think many people have completed climate surveys that might have taken well over an hour to complete. That's really common. When you complete a Denison survey, it's going to take you 15 to 20 minutes max, and people love that. The questions are extremely clear and simply phrased, and that's really important for different levels of seniority, for ethnic diversity, because it means that the questions are easy to understand and easy to respond to. Now, what he found in general was that organisations that are successful are both stable and flexible. Stable in the sense of that when I come to work in the morning, I must understand what's going on by way of processes, systems, how we do things, but also flexible. We must be able to respond effectively to the changes that happen in our day-to-day life. The world is a rapidly changing place. Also, good organisations have an internal focus and an external focus, which is to say that organisations can be focused on external matters, such as their customers, their clients, their stakeholders, but of course they also must be focused on internal matters such as the processes that they use, the way that they lead their people, the systems, all of those sorts of things matter enormously. And he found that there were 4 general categories of what people seem to care about at work. One was mission, which is that we have to be absolutely clear on what our organisation is trying to achieve. Secondly, consistency, and consistency is about our core values, but it's also about our processes, and it's about whether we are able to get on with each other. Consistency in terms of effective relationships. So the next category is involvement. And so you have 3 measures there. Empowerment, the degree to which people feel that they're empowered to do the work that's necessary. The degree to which they feel that they are involved in the teams that they belong to, so that they feel that they are effective members of their teams and that the teams are cohesive and get the job done. And the final is about capability development, because people have a sense of enthusiasm when they're learning and developing at work. The final category of the 12 measures that Daniel Denison found predicted success at work is adaptability, which is really all about, do we respond appropriately to our clients' needs? Do we respond appropriately at an organisational level from the point of view of systems and processes? When the world's changing, do we respond appropriately to that? And are we proactive in undertaking change? So there are 12 characteristics that have a massive impact on people's well-being. And one of the things that we try to emphasise in climate surveying, the best climate surveys are things that measure engagement, and engagement has a very strong link to people's well-being. When employees have higher levels of well-being, they're more productive, they're more happy, and they're far more effective. And so we also suggest that clients measure engagement, and this is the engagement model of the Denison survey instrument. The questions that are asked there are all about the degree to which people have positive emotions. And the positive emotions are about things like passion, enthusiasm, pride. And those positive emotions are incredibly effective predictors of outcomes. They correlate incredibly heavily with things like the quality of service that's provided, the satisfaction of customers, the profitability of commercial organisations. All of that's really important. Now, once you've got these results, one of the things that's absolutely crucial is that we try to cause our clients to have as many team results as possible. And what we mean by that is that if we've got a client of 1,000 people, you just don't want an organisational result, because it turns out that the biggest differences in climate survey results are not between organisations, they're actually between teams within organisations. And so an organisation of 1,000 people might well have 50 or 60 team results from us. Now, if you want an organisation to change, corporate efforts account for only about 15% of success. 85% of success comes from the immediate team to which people belong. Culture is local. So if you're in a good team in a bad organisation, you're in heaven. If you're in a bad team in a good organisation, you're in hell. And what we try to do is that once we've got these 50 or 60 local climate survey results, what we're doing is that we're leading each of those teams through an action planning process, which looks like this. Firstly, we're trying to cause that group to, in a facilitated process that we either run ourselves or train our clients to run, to set a goal for themselves. Where do they want to be in a year's time? What would define success for them? Secondly, we're asking them to undertake a reality check of how close they are to that goal right now. I mean, if we have a certain set of objectives that we're trying to achieve in terms of maybe our collaboration or the way that we communicate or the way that our customers feel about us, if we're currently an 8 out of 10, and we want to become a 9, then we're talking about fine-tuning. But if we're currently a 3 and we want to become an 8, let's say, then that's a very significant change. And it's important to quantify that journey so that people know how much change is necessary. Then it's all about creating options. And I think options fall into 2 categories. One of the things that we get groups to do is to develop what's called self-generated behaviour protocols. And those are a set of behaviours, usually only about 9 or 10 core behaviours that we all commit to. Now, these are much more important than mission, vision, value statements, which tend to be conceptual and tend to be formed a long way away for employees. Behaviour statements are practical, things like, I'm going to turn up to my meetings on time. If I make a decision that affects my colleagues, I'm going to talk to them about it before I do that. All of those sorts of things, which are behavioural and clear and local, seem to have a massive impact on people's performance and behaviour. It's also the most powerful method that we know of for reducing counterproductive work behaviours in organisations. But the second category of options is that we get people to make group-based action plans. And those actions are things that can't be done at an individual level, like a behaviour can. An action plan might be how we run our meetings. It could be we need to undertake a project to develop something that we haven't got. And so the W bit of this diagram is all about causing people to decide an action plan based on everything that's been resolved from those climate survey results. And so you turn this from a diagnostic exercise to an organisational improvement exercise because diagnosis is damaging. So if you'd like to learn more about our approach to climate surveying, click on the link below this video and you'll be taken to the part of our website which explains a bit more about the technical characteristics of our approach. It'll show you some reports and you'll be given some information about what's the next step if you'd like to get involved in undertaking a diagnostic and organisational development exercise for your company.